The most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any. Alice Walker, 2014. Welcome to the revolution. Hello and welcome to We Need a Revolution. My name is Kevin Rosenquist, and of course I am joined by my co-host, John Banks. John, really excited to be back. We took last week off. I was out of town, but I'm excited for tonight. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. I'm also excited tonight. We had a little pre-chat with our guest tonight. Seems like a very bright young man and makes Kevin and I look terrible if you compare us at the same age. So,
no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to talk about what we were doing at 20
we're not.
old in
no,
college.
we're just really going to talk about what he's been doing, what he's
Yes.
up to. Yeah.
Yes, he's the future. We fucked it all up.
I was making bongs out of apples. So,
I was definitely drinking more than studying. I'll say that much.
Yeah. What is class? I don't even know what class was.
I did not go a lot.
Yeah. Show up for the test.
Well, thank you all for joining us today. Please subscribe to our channel. We very much appreciate it. We're excited to build a community here of people who are tired of the status quo, want to see things different, want to see things change. So yes, please subscribe. The chat is open too. The comments are open. Feel free to ask questions. Brendan's a really smart guy. Our guest tonight is a really smart guy. He's got a lot of energy. And so if you've got questions, if you've got comments, please use the comments there. John monitors them. And if you're nice to John, he might read your question aloud.
Just Venmo me a fiver.
A fiver? That's it?
Yeah. Times are hard. It's a tough economy out there.
Times are hard, man. We need whatever we can get. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm excited to talk about. We're talking about the Democratic Party today, and really why it's not great anymore. And to be clear, for anybody who's listening or watching who doesn't know us yet, John and I are both former Democrats who both of us, we're both unaffiliated now, right? Right, John?
Right.
You're unaffiliated as well. Yes. So we're both unaffiliated now.
Yeah.
I'm an independent. I don't feel any connection to the Democratic Party, and it bums me out.
Nor do I feel any connection to the Republican Party.
No, I don't feel a connection to any of it. And it bums me out because I'd like to feel a connection. I'd like to feel, because I'm interested. I'm interested in politics. I'm interested in the news. Pay attention to this stuff. I want to see more. I want to see better options, and so does our guest Brendan tonight. So, initial thoughts on our topic tonight, John.
I'm hoping this is the podcast that solves the world's problems. Tonight is going to be the night that we solve all the world's problems.
No pressure.
No pressure, Brendan. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited. Again, he is a guy who is doing a lot and seems very in the know. And so I'm really looking forward to finding out what he thinks about the party he's in and how he wants to change it. So.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's bring him out. As we said, we are joined tonight by Brendan Frasier, a student at the University of Cincinnati, the treasurer of the Clermont County Young Democrats, and an elected precinct captain who is systemically subverting the political duopoly in Ohio. Brendan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. We're excited to talk to you. You heard in our intro, John and I were not doing the same things that you're doing at 20.
No,
at all.
We were not.
Before we get too deep into the weeds on what we're talking about here, can you just, what was it that kind of brought you into the political stratosphere? What made you interested? What made you want to get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm from southern Clermont County in Ohio. It's about 45 minutes from Cincinnati. But basically, during that time, I went to school at New Richmond. New Richmond is in a rural area. It had great education, and it was mainly funded by two power plants, one in Zimmer and one in Beckjord. After a while, those plants closed down. And when they closed, it caused massive economic devastation in my community. There was massive cuts. I saw teachers getting fired, one of my favorite teachers. I saw the quality of my education decline. I saw school buildings getting closed. And during that time, I heard nothing from our public officials. Republicans, they didn't care because they knew they were going to win. And Democrats, they just ignored us. which that really got me into politics because they just kept looking out for, counties, suburban counties like in Delaware or the 3Cs, and ignoring the rural counties. So that's my motivation that got me into it. When I started as I started in campaigns for a state central committee named Ty Hogan. I was strategic advisor. Fortunately, it was not a success. It was actually one of the heartbreaking races that I had during the 24 election. But after that, I did some work in Claremont County Dems. I decided to be their precinct captain and get and raise turnout in my precinct. I joined the Claremont County Young Dems. It was a forum organization. That's when I became the treasurer, and I had to fight the IRS for the IRS number, EIN number, and all that, which was a fun experience, especially with all the cuts. But which that led me to become a delegate for the National Young Democrats of America in Philadelphia to represent Ohio. And I really enjoyed that because honestly, that time I was about to quit the Democratic Party because I felt like they became too much elitist. They weren't for the working class. But once I was there and I saw so many people nationally that was actually for New Dealism, actually for the working class, I was like, yeah, that to me, I was like, all right, I got to stay in the Democratic Party. I got to fight. I can't quit. So that what got me to the Progressive Caucus. A bunch of groups started the Progressive Caucus in Ohio. I'm proud to announce that a couple of weeks ago, we were finally official from the State Central Committee.
Congratulations.
Which I am proud because we got to change it. That led me to become the Progressive Caucus, and with the platform committee, we written out the platform, try to Ohioize it, make it tailored to working folks in Ohio. Because of that, what led me to become a congressional campaign manager for Lindsay Ferreira, which was a fun experience, become a congressional campaign manager at the age of 20. It was stressful, but again, all that stress actually taught me a lot of skills and a lot of stuff that was actually pretty amazing. Unfortunately, she had to drop out due to medical reasons, which was unfortunate, but we recruited another candidate named Daryl Lynch, who is running against Greg Landsman. So that's going to be a good race. And now I decided, why not run myself? So that's when I decided to run for State Central Committee for District 14 that represented Claremont County, Adams County, Brown, and Scioto.
That's awesome. So let me ask you this. Why stick with the Democratic Party? You know what I mean? I mean, it sounds like you were kind of disillusioned with them, but you stuck it out, you stayed with it, and now you want to see it change. Is there a reason you chose to go that route rather than maybe go in more independent third party, some other route than sticking to it?
Yeah, because to me, the Democratic Party was always for the working people. Unions, there's still union members that still supports the Democratic Party. And even with the rhetoric, even though they don't actually have the actions to do it when they're elected, but the rhetoric and their platform still says that they're for the working class. That's what gave me connected. And of course, with all the young people that wants to help bring the Democratic Party back to the working class, where the roots are, that's what got me connected. When people ask me that question, I'm like, where do I go? That's the question. If I become an independent,
sure,
it ain't really going to do much because we're going to allow the two-party system, which is just basically off running by their donors and ignoring the actual working people. It's just going to be those two parties.
Right.
So, and of course, the Republican Party, some of them try. I'll give MAGA credit. They want to be working class, but they're not going to be working class.
No.
Because as we saw with the big, beautiful bill, it actually, cut taxes for the rich while, the working class got a penny of a tax cut.
Right. And there was other programs cut that were detrimental to some people.
Right. Really.
Exactly.
Yeah. Helping rural areas. Right. So let me just go back, and I'm kind of curious. Why did those power plants close down? Was it economic policy, or was it something that drove those out of business, or what was the reason for those power plants going out of business?
Yeah, mainly it was economic policy. There was not really enough, support from the federal and state level.
Okay.
The regulations were too tight, and obviously the company did not have the money. Zimmer was owned by Duke Energy, which the massive monopoly they have, they couldn't sustain it. And of course, it was getting old too, the buildings, because they were built in the 60s and 70s. So Duke Energy sold it to Dynegy, which is owned by Vista. And then they couldn't sustain it. There was too many issues, too many repairs that they don't have the money for. So they eventually just shut it down.
Okay. And then what is a delegate? So, because I know, like every time you hear, like, it's like in the electoral college, it's like, oh, the delegates, and right. So what actually is a delegate? Can you explain for our audience what a delegate is?
Yeah, absolutely. So a delegate is basically a member, a person that is a representative of a body, like our Congress and all that. So basically how conventions work, like I'm going to do the DNC, for example. When we do a primary, we vote for the candidate, but we actually vote for their delegates. And their delegates usually votes for the candidate. That's usually how it goes. So it's basically like a representative person that's representing a body, basically.
Okay. And what is a body? No, I'm just kidding. One of the things I thought was really interesting that you said is about being a precinct captain. That part I would love some clarification on. So what exactly is a precinct captain?
Yeah, so a precinct captain is basically a member of the central committee in their county parties. So they basically help shape the direction of what the county party is going to do. They vote on the bylaws, their constitution, but also what mainly is important is that they are the grassroots level of the entire party. They help, they canvass, they help gain turnout in their precincts. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm from Washington Township C, and there's like 5 or 6 Democrats, 2 in my household. So it's pretty hard, but it's kind of easy to get the turnout because there's so little. Yeah. But it's also, and especially in a rural area, you have to drive a long ways to actually talk to people, which is really hard. But yeah, basically it's one of the most, people overlook it, but it's actually one of the most influential positions on the county party.
Very cool.
On the state level.
So let's talk about the Democratic Party. We've got a lot of stuff we want to talk with you about, but I'm curious about this one. You're younger than John and I. Maybe not quite as jaded or crotchety. But what do you feel like? When do you feel like the Democratic Party lost the people?
I felt like it lost the people when I read back, mainly in the 90s. After the time of Ronald Reagan, and then of course the third way Democrats came into power, resulted in Bill Clinton. And now, as you see, during Bill Clinton's first couple of years, they tried universal health care, they tried to be more, progressive. But then once, Republicans gained that massive majority in the House and the Senate, and deals had to be made, that's when you saw the decline. And that's when you saw all those New Deal policies like Glass-Steagall and all of them getting repelled, which mainly shift the Democratic Party more into neoliberalism and more continuing the trickle-down economics path. And it just snowballed, basically, from there. As you can see, we became, when Obama was president, he talked all this policies about progressive, bringing back the party to the working class. But then once he get in office with a dang near supermajority, we saw Democratic members with like their corporate donors and refusing to pass those policies. For example, the Affordable Care Act, like it was supposed to be a universal healthcare plan, but it was so chopped down and watered down that it eventually got to where it was, which I'm not going to lie, and I will kind of agree with Trump on this. It is just dumping money to healthcare companies, and not only healthcare companies, but insurance companies, that are for profit, which mainly just goes to the shareholders.
Don't get me started on insurance companies, Brendan. Not a fan at all.
So could you kind of tell us, like, what are the definitions of neoliberalism and New Dealism? Can you kind of break those down for us?
Yes. So neoliberalism is basically triple down economics. It's basically cutting regulation, cutting taxes, and basically letting the market control itself. It's basically the same term, trickle down economics. They just have different terms. I love when Democrats say we need to stop trickle down economics, even though they're continuing it. But New Dealism is basically social capitalism. It's like free market enterprise where you're allowed to own a business and all that, but there are regulations. There are tax cuts that are not for the rich, but they're for the working class and small businesses. That mainly helps increase competition because, in order for capitalism to thrive, we need competition.
Sure.
We've seen that back in, of course, the early 1900s when we had the Rockefeller monopoly. And we saw those rising oil prices. And, of course, the working conditions with the shirtwaist factory that caused a massive movement for workers' rights. So that's basically what social capitalism is. It's free market enterprises where the government is like a referee, where they make sure that there is competition in the market, that workers are properly safety mechanisms where they have right wages, safety workplace, and basically all that.
Okay.
Like, I would say like Theodore Roosevelt, basically.
Okay. And so this would be like basically all of this stuff ideally is through policy, right? Through laws and policy that you're going to try to enact these things.
100%.
Okay.
Quick message to people. If you have any questions for Brendan or us or anything you want to comment on, please use the comments. We are live, so by all means, say hello. Say you got a couple of people here saying "Go Brandon," go Brendan, because people are excited for you, which is great. So we talked a little bit in our little pregame chat about you brought up Mamdani from New York out of New York, and how you're kind of 50-50 on him. And he's a social a democratic socialist, correct? Is that sort of his right?
Yes.
So, and that word, we talked about how that word socialism is a bad word to a lot of people. It's probably misunderstood. I feel like it definitely is misunderstood, actually. What do you feel what are the positives of something like democratic socialism, where you're like, oh, okay, this guy could do good stuff, and what are some of the negatives where you're like, I don't know if this is gonna work?
Yeah. So when you're talking about Mamdani, the reason why I was 50-50, the first, I liked that fact that he was anti-establishment. He was the candidate that was just rising. He's the new guy.
Right.
Cuomo just felt like, a typical corporate Democrat who felt like he was entitled to be in that office.
More of the same, more of the machine that people are tired of.
100%.
Right.
And the reason why he was screaming like, democratic socialism and all that is basically that people think differently than what it is. When I was working with my candidate, when I was a campaign manager, she thought that, things like universal healthcare, childcare, paid family leave, that's all socialism. I convinced her, no, that's not. That's infrastructure. That's government funding infrastructure. Democratic socialism is basically, the definition is basically government controlling production in a democratic means, basically. And capitalism is when, private enterprises controls production. mainly the biggest difference. So when I talk to people, especially from DSA, who say that they don't support the government controlling distribution and all that, but they support things like universal healthcare, childcare, and paid family leave, those things, that's not really democratic socialism, that's more social capitalism.
Okay. So we have a question here. It says, don't Dems have to run on anti-corruption, fair taxation, which fixes affordability? ?
This person's also from Canada. So
right.
I always love when we get Canadian questions because it's like, I like that they're curious about what's going on down here.
Yeah.
Things are a little different, but
well, we are going to make them our 51st state. So
that's true.
Everybody's paying attention. Everybody's paying attention to what he's doing. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you say to that, Brendan?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, corruption is, let's be realistic. I'm going to do the Republicans' point. It is a swamp. 100%.
It is a swamp. Absolutely.
And Democrats need to do more on how to fix it and, of course, drain the swamp. For example, in Ohio, I mean, we are one of the most corrupt states in the whole nation, especially with the scandal that resulted in the House Speaker, with Householder, resulted in them getting arrested. And honestly, Democrats, they don't really message on that, especially the state Democrats. They usually avoid it. They talk about social issues, and it's just astounding, especially. And it makes me wonder if they are a part of it. Basically, yeah. And of course, affordability. Absolutely. Honestly, James Carville.
Yeah, the Raging Cajun.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, I always said his quote, "It's the economy, stupid," every single day, because it is so true. Yep. Americans always vote on their paychecks. Do they have enough money to save or invest? That's the question. If it's a yes, they will vote for the person that's in power. If they don't, they will vote against that person. And it doesn't matter what issues are on. It's like, do they feel like the economy is great?
But do you think that is still the case, given the divide, given the rhetoric, given the back and forth, all of that? I mean, is that? I feel like, because we've had a few different people on that talk about how we vote basically for the lesser of two evils at this point because we're so angry with the quote unquote other side. Do you feel like people are still voting based on their paycheck, as you just mentioned?
Absolutely. I mean, if we looked at the 2024 election, we saw the biggest shift in the right, because I'm going to be honest, the economy was not that great. I mean, and it didn't help that we have an increase in people with being paycheck to paycheck. It also didn't help that the Democratic Party was saying, ignore that, look at the stock market. The problem is that most working class people don't really own anything in the stock market. So it's kind of hard. And of course, Trump. And I'm going to give Trump credit. His main focus was on the economy. It's basically, you're going to save this, we're going to have many jobs, all of that. That was his main focus. Even when he tied the immigration policy, he tied it to the economy, saying, we got to get these immigrants out so you have, more jobs. That's he did was smart. And I know, because he always tied it to the economy, which is the reason why he won. As you can see with Mandani, the reason why he won is because he always talked about the economy. The same thing in Virginia and the same thing in New Jersey. Every time Democrats win, they always talked about affordability and the economy.
Mm-hmm.
So we have another question here from what do you think of Robert Reich talking about, if you know anything about this, talking about Montana's plan to overturn Citizens United, and do you think it will work? So I guess Montana's trying to overturn Citizens United. Did you know about that, Brendan?
I haven't heard it.
Okay.
But
all right.
Honestly, I'm okay with it. I mean, it was literally one of the worst the Supreme Court cases of all time. I mean, it literally legalized bribery.
Right.
And honestly, why not? I mean, when Roe v. Wade was arrested, Mississippi tried it. And look what happened. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it always starts out in a local level. and it always works its way up. So, I mean, honestly, I'm glad it's happening, because why not? If it gets struck down, do it again, because that's after 40 years of Roe v. Wade still installed. That's literally what Republicans have been doing.
Right. Just keep going for it, and eventually you'll get the right Supreme Court.
Right. So eventually the Supreme Court will be in your favor.
Yeah. On a long enough timeline. So I'm curious, if you were to, I don't know, if you were running for president today, Brendan, like what would be some of the like New Deal policies you would try to bring back, or some things you would try to do to shift your party and also the country?
First, I would bring back policies like Glass-Steagall. Honestly, I believe it's the reason why, well, it didn't really cause 2008 recession, but I believe it made the recession worse by removing those policies. So I believe we should bring it back. I believe that mainly we need to target, tax cuts for basically working class individuals and small businesses. The reason why the economy feels so bad for working class people is because there is no competition. It's hard. Even yes, it may be easy for you to start the business, but keep the business running and compete with small businesses, compete with corporations is absolutely insane. That's why I would, propose, cutting taxes and regulations for only small businesses, but raise them for corporations to help increase competition, because basically that's how you have a nice capitalist economy that works for all Americans. Also, I would massively increase spending for, again, education, infrastructure, all of that. We have education in America is not great right now.
It's bad.
Yeah.
It's awful. And honestly, I'll give the CEOs credit that says, the reason why we're offshoring is because education is awful. Okay, I'll give you that. So how about let's actually make education better? We need to teach students also more skill level based item stuff, again, especially financial literacy. We need to teach students, Roth IRAs, 401ks, how to do a credit card responsibly, based how to pay it off, especially pay it off before the statement is due rather than the pay date. So, your credit utilization goes up. It goes down. Also, basically compound interest, how to use it to your advantage, because if you don't use it and you get all that debt, that's going to eat up your wealth. And the reason, basically, in my opinion, the reason why schools are not really teaching this, because, the top 1% doesn't want us to learn this.
Yeah.
Because they want to keep us being workers.
I was actually going to ask you about that, because I'm kind of curious about that, because you might call it a conspiracy theory that the elites, that the people at the top don't want us educated because that's not in their best interest. I mean, it sounds kind of crazy, but it also doesn't sound all that far-fetched. So kind of what you just said before, you believe that, don't you?
I mean, a little bit. I mean, during this movement of let's not go to college and all that, I mean, there's a reason why, the rich makes their kids go to college. I mean, and it's been proven that more education leads to more wealth, more knowledge, and all that. So it could be a possibility, or it could be incompetence. Either way, I mean, I've seen both instances where there's so much incompetence in the federal government that conspiracy theories come along, especially, with the FBI and with the Gunther case. A lot of right-wing conspiracy theories over incompetence. Just an example.
A lot of them.
But it could be that too.
So let's get back. So now are you currently the treasurer, or was this something in the past that you did?
Yes, I am currently the treasurer of the Claremont County Young Dems.
Okay. And what does that mean? I mean, I know what the word means, but what does that mean for you? What do you actually do? Do you raise money?
So I basically control the finance of the whole organization. I control the Act Blue. I made all the balance sheets, which is actually pretty good because I get to use Excel, and I get to learn more in Excel. My economics teacher, just Ty Hogan, little shout out, told me that if you know Excel, you get to basically run the world. And that actually helps a lot because, I mean, I learned a lot in that. And also basically, like I said, the funds, which you have a lot of power in that because, it's easy to say, hey, we can't do that because we don't have the funds. Wink, wink. But also, yeah, basically that. But the treasurer is also on the executive committee, so of course they make, they vote on rules and what direction does the Young Dems in the county level wants to do.
I'm going to interrupt real quick because I just put someone on timeout here for their comments. There was a guy just kind of running crazy, and so I took his stuff. We don't really do the rhetoric, the angry, the mean, the shouting buzzwords with no evidence whatsoever. We don't do that kind of stuff, just so everybody knows. So let's keep our comments. Our comments healthy. How about that? We'll just call them healthy. I did find something interesting that I wanted to say. That was the person who had the Canadian, the question from who was Canadian. I've been a lifetime student of U.S. politics, visited tens of times, and am now uncomfortable to visit, and that's a friggin' shame. Do you feel like that's? Do you see that? Do you feel that from other countries, even countries that we're friendly with, or I guess friendly-ish with, like Canada? Are people afraid or nervous to come here? Because of the climate, political climate, not the weather.
I mean, when I talk to international students at UC, I mean, there's a lot of hesitancy.
Yeah.
In the U.S., basically, if their visas are going to be taken away or not, so I can see that. Even people from Europe and all that. It's honestly a shame seeing the fact that our allies are being treated this way and resulting in their citizens questioning whether they should come to America and spend time and maybe even potential citizens, honestly, which could increase our economic output. But it's also, I mean, a shame because if we get in trouble, they're not going to be there to save us, like in Iraq. And it's going to take a while, in my belief, to regain that trust from European countries. It's doable. We still got 3 years left. No, 2 years left-ish.
2.5.
2.5.
2.5-ish.
2 years, 8 months, 7 days, 20. No, I'm kidding.
But I believe that if we can, the future could be great if we elect right people.
So
can I jump in real quick here, John, just as a kind of a piggyback off that one? You have young people from other countries not really wanting to visit. You're far more connected to the young people than John and I are. Do a lot of the people that you run into, that you go to school with, the people that you are around, what are they feeling about the current state of politics, of the economy, of where they fit in? Are they fired up and want to get active? Are they more, I don't even know what to do? Are they apathetic? Like what is the general kind of feel from young people that you found?
Basically we got different groups that I saw. We got ones who are very active and are in active groups, political groups that always wants to do protests and all them. Right. And we got people who are like, this is too much. I just want to get a job in finance or something and actually have a normal day without getting on my phone and seeing something political. And people get annoyed by that stuff and then they get turned off by it. Right. Which results in young people sometimes not even joining politics because I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I'm like, this is just too insane. Can we just talk about sports? Is the Blue Jackets gonna go to the playoffs, or are they gonna break my hearts again? But basically, there's different types of people who are let's go, let's do this. And there's people who are like, I just want to live my life.
Yeah, makes sense.
I do think it's interesting because Kevin and I, well, we grew up in a different time, and we've talked about this before on our podcast that it was very rare you would talk about politics. Very, I mean, like when we were your age, right? Like maybe 3 minutes, you'd be like, oh, like I can't believe blah blah blah, right? And that would be it, right? And so I guess it is kind of interesting to hear you talk about how it's so much of your conversation, right? So much of young people's conversation, and I guess because it's just always in your face. So, but getting back to what you were talking about as far as the damage that's been done so far, do you think that is something like internationally? Like, do you think that's something we can actually repair? Because basically, if I'm a country and I'm watching what's going on in the U.S., if there's a president elected who's very, open to keeping our allies and having those relations, they're only guaranteed for 4 years, right? So then, like, how do we repair the damage that has been done to our dealings with countries internationally?
That is an absolutely great question.
And a big question.
Yeah, it is. But it's like the situation in Brexit, when UK left the EU and you saw the massive devastation and the economic loss and the hardship. There is now tension between Brexit and the EU. And as you can see, UK is slowly trying to get to the EU, but there's still separation. So, like I said, it's going to take time.
Right.
Like, we need more, focus. Like, hey, how do we make this work? What do you need without, dumping a bunch of $1 billion to a foreign country? But yeah, like it just trust is hard.
Yes.
Especially when trust has been broken. So I can't give you a direct answer because, like I said, problems in other countries that needs to be solved. I'm mainly a domestic guy.
Okay.
But it's gonna take time.
It's okay being a domestic guy. We gotta start here and branch our way out, I suppose, at some point. Do you feel that there, because you live in a place that's very red, right? Your hometown that you were talking about. How do you as a Democrat, as a young Democrat, break that sort of Republican stranglehold? How do you organize people? How do you challenge incumbents that are so ingrained and how do you get people thinking differently?
Yeah, basically by meeting them where they are and, talking about the issues that actually matter. Like, I talked to a lot of people who are former Democrats, and basically the reason why they left is mainly that the fact that the Democratic Party is not focusing on their issues. I mean, like I said, like the Ohio Democratic Party lost Wyoming County, which is again Youngstown, which is a massive blue-collar union county. And again, the reason why they lost that county is because they're so focused on the 3 Cs and of course the southern counties like Delaware, which has the big massive mansions, that they're ignoring rural America. And I will always say this: rural Ohio is literally the backbone of Ohio. Rural America is the backbone of America. Mm-hmm. And if you ignore one group to try to get the other group instead of trying to, meet where they're at and actually expand your coalition, you're going to lose elections every time. Like,
wow, novel concept. Reaching out to people where they are and where they're having difficulty. But you're right. That's totally what's happening. It's like they're going they're focusing on the people that they know they can get, and they're just ignore everybody else that they're just like, they're going to vote Republican anyway. Why would I bother talking to those people?
So here's a question. So what issues have grabbed the attention of young people in Claremont County?
That is a great question, and I'm proud of you. I'm actually glad you asked that. Basically,
I didn't. That was somebody else who asked that. I cannot take credit.
I would like to thank that person because that was amazing.
Kate Novak 6520. So
thank you, Pete. Basically, the issues that's facing young people in Claremont County is, of course, the lack of opportunity there. We have a lot of people, not only in Claremont, but in Brown, Adams, Scioto, that's leaving those areas and going up to the cities or even out of state because there's no opportunity there. There's no job, or even if there is a job, it's not good enough pay. It couldn't get you anywhere. That's the reason why they're leaving. And of course, both parties refuse to, invest in that area. They refuse to gain any knowledge. Honestly, I hear a lot of people that says, hey, I'm going to go to a swing state because not only is there more economic output, I'm more likely to get a job, but also my voice will actually matter. I will actually get connections by both parties and actually see if my voice will actually make a difference. While in Ohio, in Claremont County, or basically rural America at all, you hear Republicans, but you don't hear Democrats. Well, my voice won't matter anyways. So why would I even vote?
Why would I vote? Okay.
But mainly the main issue is economic output.
So we had one more question that we missed because that other guy was sending all that crazy stuff. First of all, they said, good to see a young person leading the way. How do you balance national discourse with local needs? I feel everyone's focused so much on the national agenda, but you mentioned local stuff like your power plants. I think that's a really good question because it's true. Like and then maybe that's because of the 24-hour news cycle, our phones, all the stuff. Everybody knows what's going on. It's Trump. It's now it's Iran. There's always national stuff. How do you balance that national discourse with the local issues?
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta ignore the national noise, because honestly, I'm not gonna lie, when people hear something that doesn't affect them, it's just gonna go through one ear and one out. But when you have families that are trying to, they're paycheck and paycheck and trying to invest and all that, they're gonna figure out like, hey, how are we gonna do this? Basically, and also people are not really, especially where I'm my place, they're not really politically involved. So they don't know really anything about government or politics or anything. They focus on their own life. So if the Democrat Party wants to focus on, national issues that's not going to affect anyone's lives, or bring that national issues on how that's going to affect them, they're not going to gain anywhere.
Right.
Like I haven't heard, or the best part is that political parties, I'm talking about both Democrats and Republicans, when they talk about, a mill that's closing and all that in a rural area, basically most likely they're in the minority and they're doing it just to gain political points. You don't actually hear them on, hey, how are we going to fix this? How I'm going to make sure these policies are passed so you gain more jobs and you're actually able to get that job and get that income so you can feed your family. It's just basically that mill closed. Let's blame that person in charge and gain those political points, which rural Americans see that. And it's like, all right, that's great. Well, how are you going to fix that, basically?
And so we had somebody here said something about data centers are uniting Ohioans across the political spectrum across the state. Do you believe that is true, and why is that true?
I've been reading about that too. I'm excited to hear what you have to say about this, Brendan. Yeah,
there is a data center near me in Brown County, and let me tell you, MAGA. I mean, there's far right and far left. Let me tell you, I never seen people so united over this data center thing, because especially where I'm at, farmland is farmland. And if you put something on farmland that doesn't have any benefits for us, that usually is very bad for the environment. And not only that, but it will literally, I don't know, add 10 jobs. And most of those jobs are probably out of state, people coming in and not from the citizens. That causes bigger problems. And we've seen that. And with the AWS, up in, I want to say Maysville. I may be wrong, but see all that construction and all that farmland being used, it makes everyone mad. It makes farmers mad. It makes workers mad. It makes us mad that, hey, we're going to have this awful, horrible conditions and there's not really going to gain anything. And the worst part is that most of those data centers getting built, they're going to have a big tax rebate. So that means, hey, we're going to be paying for that. Yep. We ain't going to get nothing. No funding's going to be for schools. No funding's going to be helped to build roads. Because that's the main purpose. Like manufacturing plant, all right, put that thing, we get jobs, and of course, we get funding to help build schools, roads, and all that. Not with data centers. With data centers, it's basically a big plot of land, a big data center. We pay for it, and we get nothing in return.
And also, and correct me if I'm wrong here, or maybe you don't know, but I've read a lot of stuff where data centers actually increase the cost of power for people near the data center because they eat up so much power. Is that, I guess, a concern as well?
Yes, absolutely. Like in Ohio, we have a big monopoly with Duke Energy. So mainly every month our bills go up constantly.
Yeah.
And it's a hassle. And of course we have a state legislator that is so corrupt, and basically Duke Energy is funding them with so much money. So they basically will allow it to happen. And seeing this and seeing, hey, I can't even barely afford rent, and all this is going up, it just causes much outrage.
There's also that side plot of especially when it's, if it's open AI, it's like, okay, Sam Altman needs more money. These people need more money. Elon Musk wants to. Everybody. It's the AI arms race, right? So, nobody in farmland, nobody who are farmers and blue collar workers could give two shits about AI data centers and what these tech companies are going to do to help logistics companies. Blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Like that. There's no connection between them, and instead they get higher power bills, no tax breaks, and a lot of noise pollution. All sorts of different stuff is coming from these things. So yeah, that's a really interesting topic. We also had somebody ask, I thought this was kind of interesting. What do you think about Chuck Schumer's 2016 quote of, "For every blue collar Democrat we lose in Western Pennsylvania, we will pick up 2 moderate Republicans in the suburbs in Philadelphia"?
Which I think you wrote about that, right? In your op-ed?
Remember that? Yep.
Let me tell you.
Let me tell you. Sit down, everybody.
Preach it, Brendan. Preach it.
Oh, man. Let me tell you. Like, that's what caused the Democratic Party mainly to go to the suburbs, to the cities, and ignore the working class. I mean, the fact that he literally admitted,
right.
It's depressing. It's depressing. And the fact that he's still in office, it would get worse, the fact that he's still in office, and it would continue it. The Schumer strategy, it was awful. It didn't work. And of course, as you can see, we lost Ohio, we lost Iowa, and we even lost Florida. It was awful. And as an Ohio Democratic Party, they continued it. When I asked Liz Walters about it, she said, quote, "In order to win Ohio, we got to gain turnout in Cuyahoga, Cincinnati, and Columbus. We got to get the suburbs, and I guess we got to stop the bleeding in rural." Okay. Are you going to actually, I asked her, are you actually going to go to rural areas? She said no. But she always keeps on going back to the topic of, we got to get that turnout up in urban, we got to get that suburban. And I'm like, okay, listen. And I love the fact that they always talk about like Ohio. They always said Ohio is a rigged state and all that. And it's true. It's true, especially with, the state house being one of the most gerrymandered districts in the world. But you can't gerrymander a statewide race.
Right.
In order to win a statewide race, it always runs through rural America. Always. And unless you don't actually talk to these people, you ain't going to win anything. If you ignore people's solutions, they're not going to vote for you. I mean, look at Trump, for example. I mean, he went to New York. He went to California. and he made inroads with those areas, which is the reason why he won the popular vote. So it works. Like, you have to actually talk to these people. You can't just spend money on ads and just ignore their issues.
Right. So can we get can you kind of tell us what the 535 seat strategy is? Can we get into that a little bit? Are you familiar with that? Maybe I went a little off on my research.
Went too deep. Went too deep, John.
Are you familiar with that at all, or no?
You said the 535?
Yeah, the 535 seat challenging the red versus blue, basically ensuring every seat from state rep to federal office has a people power challenger. Maybe I went a little off on the rails on my research there. So if you don't know anything about that, we can totally skip it. So
it sounds familiar, but I'm not an expert in that.
Okay.
So I don't want to, say some nonsense politician talk. And
yeah, no, I like that. Yeah, let's not do that then. So that was totally Kevin's fault. He put that in there. I told him, why are we doing that?
See, now that is I'm like, wait, what was that again?
That is a politician thing. Yeah. So it wasn't me. It was Kevin. So yeah, it's all these Kevins causing these problems in the world.
Also, so many Kevins. So many Kevins. Involved.
Yeah.
So when you talk about visiting and connecting with the local people, with the smaller, the rural communities and stuff like that, is it a money thing? Is it an arrogance thing? Is it they're lost anyway? I'm not going to waste my time. Or maybe there's not enough people there to make this worth my while. Why do they skip these communities
basically,
when they're campaigning?
It's all of the above. So mainly one of them they complain about, of course, is because, they like to canvass and all that, the old way fashion, which it works. It does. I will give them that. But in rural areas, you can't just go to unless you're like, in a little suburb area and all that, or a little village. You have to actually get in your car and drive, all that. They hate it. Absolutely hate it. Mm-hmm. And they want nothing to do with it. Also, they stereotype. They think that everyone in rural America is a bunch of, racist white dudes who is not worth it.
Who have no education and don't know anything and blah, 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 exactly. Blah, blah, go down the line, yeah.
Even though they don't realize, hey, there are people with different demographics in rural areas. We got African-American farmers. Everyone is in rural America. So right. If you're ignoring those, rural America, you're ignoring those people too, who could be in your base or not. I mean, there's a lot of, have you guys heard of Afro Man in Ohio?
I have not. No.
I think so.
Good one. You should look it up. So there's a case in Adams County of Afro Man. He was arrested. It had caused massive police corruption and all that. And he was actually able to get out of it. And it actually caused so much support among both left and right, especially among free speech. It was actually fascinating to see our people come together with different political views. And it just shows that, hey, there's people with different demographics. There's people who left, right, both support. But of course, the main party will refuse to actually get involved in that because they just see it as, a vote that's never going to happen, even if they don't try.
So how do you bring back, because I'm from a small town. I was born, the town I was born in was, I think, about 4,200, 4,500 people, something like that. And then I moved to a big city of 60,000 people, right? And that's where I grew up. So, how do you get back manufacturing? How do you bring back industry and jobs into these areas, right? And I'm really curious, right? Because how do you attract, first of all, there's just not as much, you don't need, in 1984 to make a car, you'd need, 1,000 people on that line making that car. And now with technology, there's a Mercedes-Benz plant in my hometown, and you go do a tour of that thing and you don't see a human being other than the people you're doing the tour with until you get to the end. It is literally all done the robotics. So even if you get, manufacturing to come back to the state, how do you get back jobs for people?
Yeah. Basically, so I'm not into, those dumb, immature tariffs, laws that Trump's been putting in. But I am a free trader. Not free trader. I am a fair trader, sorry. And I do support, at least targeted tariffs that could actually help, get us jobs, which is the reason, Democrats were for fair trade, but then, they shifted towards free trade after, Reagan. And it shows, like, if we do targeted trades and get those, while also investing in education and trades and all that, it can actually help bring back jobs. You have to do it smartly, though. But basically, it's not only about like jobs, it's also about, funding for local economies, because that's what really has suffered, especially in Appalachia, is those manufacturing plants closing, meaning no money for local government where they can invest in mental health and all that. And sadly, Appalachia, working class people have one of the highest suicide rates down there. And they have no support whatsoever. But yeah, once we have, like, state investment while also targeted smart tariffs, it will result in more jobs and at least more funding for local governments. Basically, but
okay. So this will be, so it's a long-term plan, right? You're not going to turn this around in a few years. Yeah. You're talking 10, 15, 20 years to really make a huge difference in a community.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, it took, 10 to 15 years to slowly but surely it took them to get out of America.
Right.
It wasn't a fast topic. It was a slow, painful, hellish experience, one by one. I mean, in Youngstown in 2018, that was when the Chevy GE plant closed that has been running, thanks to Trump cutting the regulations where they're allowed to close it. But yeah, it was a slow process amount from the 15 years. And it's going to take sadly, a slow process to actually bring it back. Okay. And we've seen, especially during 2020, during, the pandemic, everything closed, and the fact that we have lost chips that were really needed by the time. And I mean, I remember when, Ford dealerships was having massive amounts of cars lined up without any chips. So they were possible to sell.
I remember that too.
That lost supply, it shows that, hey, we actually need to, get more materials in America, because in case something happens, God forbid we have a war with a country that manufactures, medicine, we ain't going to get any medicine for us. So those important things, that's needed to come back, I'm okay with it. But if we're talking about, shoes or something, or, bananas, items that can't be made in America, that's just, that's just too much.
Okay. Well, before we wrap up, we had a few fun comments or cool comments. There's someone, 58 Daystar. I plan to talk to every voter in Ohio's 63rd district, young and old, rich and poor. I kind of liked that. Brian Hambly, SOS candidate, is getting close to visiting all 88 counties. And a lot of rural Ohioans hold progressive beliefs but identify with the Republican Party. So I thought those were interesting because that's cool. There's people talking about getting out and talking to people. And, one of the biggest things John and I talk about, one of the biggest reasons we do this show is because we don't think there's that big of a division between the people themselves, the real working people. We are pushed to be divided. We are told to be divided. And if we really got together and really talked, we'd probably find out that we're not that different overall. And I think that that's something that we really need to focus more on. All right. Well, anyway, we are out of time. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Brendan Frasier, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Check out his editorial in The Hill. We'll put that in the show notes. I think it's already in there, but if it's not, I'll make sure it's in there. Be sure to follow the Clermont County Young Democrats for updates on their 2026 strategy. Brendan, if anybody is listening and they're like, wow, I got to keep up with what this guy's doing, what's the best way to stay on top of it?
Basically, join an organization near you. That's basically how I got to politics. Claremont County Young Dems or any Young Dem group, join your Young Dem group. I mean, it's perfect. You need a group of friends to help motivate you. And I'm not going to lie, those people help motivate me.
Yeah.
And motivation and people around you, those support will help you grow. So basically, join your group. If it's a Facebook group, if it's, we have a place called Brew and Change where we go to the Bean and Brew in Batavia, Ohio, and we just talk and plan out what we're going to do, how we're going to help gain voter turnout. Just join a group of people and that'll help make some change.
Love it. All right. Well, thanks again, everybody, for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, share it with people. We really appreciate that. Next week, we're going to speak with John Gravelin, founder of First Principles Partners. We're going to discuss the housing market and how America's economic systems are engineered to prioritize institutional profit over the financial security of everyday people. So don't miss that. All right. Well, thank you again, Brendan. Thank you, John, as always. Gentlemen, great having you here. Brendan, for God's sakes, go get some sleep. You've got to do it tomorrow.
Thank you, guys.
It's been a pleasure.
Take care, everybody.